Welcome everybody to another Tangent TV episode. Today I am lucky enough to have with me Fionan Murphy, the co-founder of the Startupcom. Hi Finn.
Hi Joe.
And as well as Jannetje van Leeuwen, the VP of Product for YourEcosystem. How's it going, Jan?
Pretty good. Nice to be here, Joe.
Absolutely awesome. So the purpose behind this webinar, we want to talk about the ecosystem as I see it. The Tangent ecosystem specifically is the home for all things innovation, entrepreneurship, new ideas at Trinity College Dublin. This has been kind of between myself, Jan, and Finn. It's been a work in progress for a long time. It's now launched. People are able to get onto the ecosystem, but we wanted to talk through kind of where it came from, what it is today, and maybe a bit about how you can influence its future. Just to start off, like for me, it's just to give a bit of an intro as to what the ecosystem is, where it came from. Right now, I manage the student entrepreneurship program in Tangent, Trinity's Ideas Workspace. I came into this role in 2018. Before that, I was a student and participated in a lot of the opportunities that exist in Trinity. There's Launchbox, there's Sprints, there's the Trinity Entrepreneurial Society, there's Enactus. There's so many things that are going on. It's a lot of things, but they're all a bit all over the place, slightly disconnected, some might say, but in a positive way. There's just so much happening, but sometimes that can mean that it's a bit difficult to get involved in everything or see it all in one place. So for me, I wanted to bring all of the great resources that exist into kind of one space. And this is where on the Trinity side, this kind of started. So last year in September of 2019, we kicked off the Tangent Online Blackboard module. It was using Blackboard, so very rudimentary, but it brought together some of the resources. You could find all of the various sprints, the activities that you'd want to get involved in. But the things that were missing from it that I realized over just a year is the sense of community. It's hard to build a sense of community in a Blackboard module, as well as there are a lot of successful startups that would come through Trinity and kind of go out the other end, but there's no necessarily formal process for them to go to or place to showcase the success from them. So somewhere in that timeline, that's where I met Finn, started talking to Finn, started talking to Jan, and I learned about the YourEcosystem product that you guys have been developing for a while now. And this is how we've kind of brought together into what was just launched now in this September 2020. So before we go into the specific as it is today, Finn, maybe you could share with us a bit of the kind of backstory of how the ecosystem, YourEcosystem came to be, and then we'll go into a bit more.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. We've been working on the Startupcom for probably about 4 years, and the idea behind the Startupcom is to try and provide digital incubation, really, or acceleration for people with ideas. So we've always tried to identify people's needs when they have an idea, because recognize there's a ton of supports out there when you have an idea. And funnily enough, most people don't act on them at all. I mean, a lot of people have ideas their whole lives, and then they see somebody else do it and they go, wow, I wish I'd done that or actually started it. So what we're trying to do with the Startup.com is two things, really. One is to demystify the journey. So you can start your beginning journey with the Startup.com, but with just a simple question. So we have, 50 questions, and then after you do the questions, you get a list of actions, and the actions are then meant to help bring you along and develop your idea. So we don't actually ask you what your idea is in the assessment, so what we're trying to do is just help demystify some of the journey of how do I develop my idea. A lot of the time for people who've never built a business before, I mean, it's not something you would just naturally do throughout your life. And it's a really exciting thing. And I think there are components of it which are very unique to the offering. But broadly speaking, when you're starting a new project, there are things that are common across all businesses. So what we're trying to do with the Startup.com is demystify that journey. So we can help people in bite-sized way understand what they need to do, connect them with, let's say, mentors, connect them with service providers, connect them with investors, but prepare them to have conversations. So in the Startup.com, you complete a series of actions, you develop a 2-page business plan, you can have that reviewed by a mentor, but it's an asset that you can take to somebody and say, look, this is what I'm trying to do. So it's much more descriptive in terms of this is the idea. And then the next thing is to say, okay, well, we've helped you understand what the idea could be. in terms of structure and idea development. The next thing is about democratizing access to resources. So, what does that mean? Like, depending on who you are, or maybe an accident of birth, or maybe you're just a social person, or maybe whatever, you might have a stronger or weaker network. And people who succeed, entrepreneurs generally, there's a couple of things that are outliers. Category expertise is hugely important. So, you can see big companies trying to do things that they're just not authentic in, like Nike and golf. I'm a golfer. And like, they stop making golf clubs because they're just like, well, it's not really what we do. Whereas, people who have a really deep understanding of a category have a much better success or chance of success with their business. But also people whose parents are entrepreneurs or family members were entrepreneurs as well, get that kind of, I suppose it's like a benchmark for being able to start up a new business, and they might be helped. So what we're trying to do is just make that much, much more productized, so that you follow a workflow, you follow a process, and all of the resources are there for you. And that's the whole purpose of the Startup.com. So demystify the journey and then democratize access to the right resources to help people. Now, just so everybody's clear, we don't have a silver bullet for successful businesses, because nobody has, because there's market forces. You can see what's happening with COVID. You can see everything that's happening in the world. Very hard to predict. So I think really the only thing that validates a business idea is customers, and not necessarily revenue, but users. People, consuming the value proposition and coming back for the value proposition and not churning. But what we're trying to do is just help people who have an idea go through a flow. So it's very much like what you're doing, I think, in Tangent. And what I love talking to you about is saying, like, how do you have students who are in the university that may not have identified as an entrepreneur ever, but have an idea for a business and want to progress that. So we built a platform called YourEcosystem, which is, it really drives, it's the engine behind the Startup.com from a product point of view. But what we also do with it is we white label it. What that means is that it's white label as in it's nothing got to do with the Startup.com identity or content or anything like that. It's fully got to do with what you're trying to achieve in Tangent. So the features that we're really trying to bring out that have helped our entrepreneurial community in the Startup.com, I think those problems that you're describing are common across lots of ecosystems. So, like in Ireland, there's a really vibrant, I would say, startup landscape, but I think it's quite fractured some ways. You might apply for one thing, but it's not connected with another. You mightn't be aware of certain things that are available to entrepreneurs. What we're trying to do is enable entrepreneurial ecosystems with your ecosystem. So Tangent is a really good example. I think, you've got different types of student users. We've been in Trinity for about 3 years, where we've been working with the business school, with Dr. Buccini in the MSci and entrepreneurship. So we've been using the platform to help people kind of think about their ideas. But what we're really adding now with your ecosystem, I think, is a community of entrepreneurs, or at least people who are interested in entrepreneurship from Trinity. And that seems to be just like, it is the #1 university for entrepreneurship, I think, in Europe. Really vibrant, like TESS. I've known the guys in TESS first came across TESS 4 years ago. And I think that, like, it's one of the biggest societies. So there's a real kind of authentic, entrepreneurial spirit in Trinity. And what we're trying to do is just provide connectivity, so that you can say, well, if I want to, where would I go? There's one place to go, and it's digital. And that's not to say that, we're saying that real world interaction is over at all. I guess currently we're all experiencing this kind of lockdown levels and all that kind of stuff. I don't think there's any substitute for human contact, really, if you're trying to work something out. But what we're trying to do is provide a digital or a virtual space as well, which also underpins all of the activities that your program in Tangent is scheduling for the year.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Fred. It's like, it's so good to hear the kind of like the story and how it starts, and like, it's the Startup.com, and now it's the product YourEcosystem, and here's like, now it fits really well into what we already did. And we've had a number of conversations, and that's the main reason I wanted to have this, is because we've talked about this so many times, about kind of democratizing the ability to create go from an idea to a startup, not necessarily because you've been formally trained in it, but just because you have an idea and you might be passionate about it, want to run with it. And that's what this product is designed to do. And it's super cool. And I'm super excited to start with it. Now, for our visual learners who are out there, I wanted to make sure there is a part of this where we show what it looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and then Jen, maybe we can walk through some of the key features that are there, and we can see kind of how they're going to help, how they would help these budding student entrepreneurs at Trinity. So right now, I'll share the screen. All right, so you might just give me the thumbs up when you can see that.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, perfect. Jen, when we land on the page, now I know that I've already filled out my assessment, but the first thing we come to is the dashboard. Can you tell me a bit about like the principle behind the dashboard and how it works?
Well, the dashboard is kind of your workspace, I'd say. You usually led there through, I mean, when you first arrive on the platform, you take an assessment or one or two assessments in your case. So you have the student assessment and the idea assessment. The idea assessment specifically sort of basically allows you to indicate what you understand or don't understand about certain areas of business relating to your idea. And as you, when you complete that, depending on how you answered, it will actually spit out the best actions, a whole list of them that you can work through. And when you, if you click onto one of those items, like the one you have there, it pops up a little overlay, gives a little bit of a short explanation, brings you to or a link that you can get a little bit more information on. And what you can see underneath there, I guess it's more relevant in a minute when we can explain that you can add members to your idea. So, you know, you can work on something as a team or with a mentor. And once you've done that, you can assign a task. Yeah, if you want to show that, actually, that would be.
You invite a platform member, which actually brings you to the community here.
Yeah, you could add me. I can set you in the background, I'm sure.
Yep. So I can invite Jan to my idea just by clicking here. Either view only or edit and view. For now, I'm going to give you view only access, Jan. So then the invite is sent and you'd be able to join into my idea, right?
So I've actually got it in there, so I'm going to accept that now, which means you should see me there. If you go back to the dashboard and
go to manage members,
yeah,
we then see I have Christina and I have Jan on my team here.
I need to, I think I'm there. Anyway, I think what we wanted to show, it doesn't really matter. If you click back into that, identify your primary revenue model that you were looking at, you can actually
then assign it to
yourself for the moment, and then select a date that you want that done by. So it's either as a reminder to yourself or you're going to assign it to somebody in the team. Like if it was a mentor, you wouldn't really be assigning tasks to them. But if it was a somebody on your idea, you could. And so once you've clicked out of that, so you do that piece of work, once you've understood it, you can mark it as being complete. So either by checking it there or checking it within the idea. So
Very
that's
cool.
kind of the dashboard. So it's kind of like we call them NBAs or next best actions. So they're really the things that you need to either understand or learn about in a particular section to be able to complete a business plan or a short business plan.
Absolutely. And the other thing I might just point out at the top that I know is big for me is the fact that you might have multiple ideas or be working with multiple people. So I know that up at the top here, I have my own idea, but also, as I saw, Christina. So I can switch between my idea and Christina's idea if I was looking to work on multiple ones. And then also you have the ability to create your own next best actions because obviously you guys advise, but then in this section, this is more of a project management tool, right?
Absolutely. Or like imagine with a mentor would be working with you, they might actually create a bespoke action under a particular heading that you're talking with them. And then they can assign that to you and you'd be able to work from there. And it's really cool. And then the assessment, you can also go back to the assessment just above that here, you can see. You can go back to the assessment and maybe edit some of your answers. Say, actually, now that I've read it, I actually understand more than I realized I understood. So I'm going to change that to being a fair amount. Right. And then once I've changed it to a fair amount, I can go back here. Correct. And then my score will go back up, right? Yeah. So the scoring there in the graph, that really, as you start progressing through as well and completing tasks, if you were to complete maybe 4 or 5 tasks, Joe, on the, you know, in your dashboard now, not so much the questions, that would have an impact on your score. After a while, you'll see that go up. It might take a while to refresh.
Absolutely, and then it would update so that we have all of the up-to-date scores, and it says how I'm kind of doing, which is the metric to be able to track how you're doing. And I love this because for me, this is the thing that was kind of missing in my entrepreneurial journey, because if you've never founded a startup before, you've never even tried, you may have no benchmark for how well you're doing. And this, for someone like me now in the role of mentoring students, I can see kind of where they're at and see how they progress over time. And that's really cool for a lot of students, I think, and just to bring them into that space. I want to move on if there's like just to another one of the things on the side here is the tools section. So can you tell me a little bit about the tools section, kind of how that comes together?
At the moment we have 4 tools. This will probably be the area that we expand the fastest and the most. You know, we'll be adding in tools and dropping them in as we go along. So you can create customer personas, which brings you literally through a questionnaire. It's very easy for sort of a standardized, if you went in, you don't need to complete it, but it tells you a little bit about what a persona is. And then it literally asks you the questions of, you know, give her a name. Is it going to be Mary, Simon? And, you know, give an avatar, and it brings you through what age what's she interested in, etc. And then you can, if you view it there, it actually gives you a customer persona, and you can download it then as well, and send it along or attach it to a business plan.
And that's the really cool thing as well. I know we have market and competitor analysis that work in very much the same way, but it all then connects into your business plan at the end, right?
At the moment, the most important tool in this platform, because as you go through your next best actions and basically increase your understanding as how those sections relate to your own business, you can go and fill in. You have a maximum of 85 words actually, which forces you to be quite succinct. And you can complete this at the very end of that. You can attach your market analysis and a competitor analysis that you've created. You could request for it to be reviewed by a mentor, but you probably would download it first as a PDF, and it'll just deliver a very standardized 2-page business plan synopsis, which you could present, you know, for any sort of applications I'm sure you're doing internally, or to an investor, or to explain to anyone really what your idea is.
Yeah, absolutely. And that works really well for us in Tangent. So if you're a student here at Trinity and you're trying to develop your idea, if you have this business plan in the same format, it's something that's really easy. If you then go on and book, say, a one-to-one mentorship meeting with myself or Gavin or Allison, we can help you a lot better because we have that structure and understanding of what your idea is. Even if you've never created a business plan before, it's easier for us to help you. That's really cool. I'm going to go through, we're breezing through things. And this is the thing, is anybody can go in here and can try and explore what's in the ecosystem. But you'll see the next thing is the forum. So if you could just give me an intro to the forum, kind of what it is generally, because obviously we're using it in many different ways, but generally speaking, can you tell me about the forum?
Generally, it is what it's called. It's a forum. So it's a place under various channels or headings, say topics that forums can be posted. And, you know, ultimately to really make them vibrant, it's up to you, Joe, as a community administrator and a manager as well, to get people to engage on the posts that you have there. But you could be broadcasting about events, but you could also, you could create a place for an after party on a webinar, or it's really up to, you know, I think it's going to be your imaginations that's the limit on the forum, what you could use it for.
Absolutely. And we're going to be using it for a lot of things. I know, like right now I have past videos or past events that we would have had, like video marketing on a budget with Robert. I've embedded the actual video here. So if anybody wanted to go and watch that, they can watch it there. Or for example, if they wanted to come to the Welcome to the Ecosystem webinar that's happening right now, they could go here and it would bring them to register to attend that webinar. So a lot of it is events, but again, we're going to be using it to create conversations. So this is the general discussion space for everybody. I'm going to keep moving through just because the next thing is the community, and we had already touched on that. But is there anything more generally about the community and kind of how it works, Jen? Not
really. The community, well, in a sense, community is really a directory of people on the platform. So it gives a general sort of overview or little avatar like that with who's who and what they do top level. And you can click through then, see more details.
Just going to go into your profile here.
My self-congratulatory profile there. And then you can, so you can see there at the top as well, you have invited me to the idea. I still haven't accepted that yet. And then you can also connect with me, which will bring us in a minute to the chat functionality.
Right, so I might just click the connect just to bring us into the chat, if that makes sense, and then we'll see. So when I click connect, we open app.
That probably requires me to have accepted your idea.
You would have had to accept in order to chat, but I can just show the chat here. When I go here, it opens up into the chat forum. And we have various channels. So I have my town square, welcome to the team, and then direct messages down the side. And my understanding, maybe you share a bit more on this, just the chat interface here is meant kind of specific for how any individual in the platform would use it. Am I right there?
Absolutely. Well, so I know you haven't created any yet there yourself, Joe, is on the private channel. So imagine if you're in here, you're going to probably, if you have a team, you're going to want to create a private channel on various topics. Maybe it might be, ABC software is your business, but you might have it then on marketing, ABC marketing, ABC development, certain topics that not everybody in your team would be in each, or you might have a few other members within Trinity. You also might create one that's called mentor conversations that would just be with the founder and the mentor. So you really use that in that way. The public channels are very much more for you to use to broadcast, and you could have an off topic, which is a little bit, that's kind of more random, how that could be used. And then the direct messages, it's not just one-to-one. You can also create groups. So if you plus next to direct messages, you could add 2 members to that conversation.
Right.
And then
I can add a few there.
Group chat, like a little WhatsApp, say, you probably recognize it, group chat would make sense, and you can remove them again afterwards. So that's more for immediate messaging, is what we'd use for chat, I guess is what it says in the tin.
Absolutely. No, perfect. And so that's the chat that sits behind it if we're having a discussion. And this is a lot of what makes it, and this is why, as we've discussed with this, it makes it more alive than the Blackboard module before us would have been. In this way, like, we have the ability to actually have conversations. This is a living, breathing ecosystem where students can come in and staff and alumni can all connect and actually communicate all within the one platform versus delegating out to, we're going to talk through email or we're going to have a meeting. It can all happen here. You can review your business plan. And this is what I love about the platform. So for the sake of time, we're just going to click through the last 2 here. We have the marketplace. If you could just tell me briefly just kind of the purpose of the marketplace.
Marketplace really is a curated set of tools and products that you can bring. It'll bring you straight through that we've curated. One as being the best deals available, and some of them would be affiliate deals that are specifically brokered by ourselves. And then you can actually filter. At the moment, you can filter by which stage of business you're in. But as we go forward, there'll be more filters that we can use, and as filters that you're going to be able to create. There might be an event around best products for a certain type of software or a certain type of business, and you might curate a list there, and that will be accessible from here as well.
Absolutely.
And then in the local co-op, that's actually, I think, really interesting because you're a closed group and you all have the affinity of Trinity. Is that in here you actually see a lot more filters available. This is where your own members are going to be able to promote what their offering is, and also sell their offering.
Absolutely. And this is like, just to kind of add on to that, Jen, because I've kind of like, I mean, this is where it's been amazing working with you guys, because the co-creation of this, I have taken our co-op and used it for a lot of things here. So you'll see, like, for us specifically and in Tangent and in Trinity, we have, if students are looking for workshops, there are kind of 2 places we might point them to: our Tangent TV YouTube channel, where they can watch webinars like this one. It's probably on Tangent TV right now if you're watching it. And maybe the Techstars Entrepreneurs Toolkit. There are a few places you might go, but also if they wanted to look at some of the startups that have come through Tangent before, you can look at Launchbox alumni. We've only put a few of them in there. They're not all there yet, but for example, we have Bounce Insights. I've put them in because we got some information from them, what their product is, who are the founders. I've created their startup CV. So this shows kind of what they've done. So if you're a student developing a startup in Trinity, you might go through the Launchpad Sprints program like they did, and then eventually end up down the road in the same place. And if you did want to go, right now the button is buy, but it is to download their application. If you want to go and follow up and download the app it's there for you. But it's so students can kind of use this as a space to see where their predecessors have gone, and also to find resources. So say they were looking to apply to the Launchbox Accelerator, which the applications are in February every year. I've put the link here so you can click on it and go ahead and apply. Now it's by, but it's where you go to apply to the app, to the Launchbox Accelerator. And so this is where we get into the kind of co-creation element of it. Jan, I really appreciate you kind of walking us through all of the elements of the ecosystem. But I know that a big part of this is we have users coming on, our community is growing. But you guys have been looking from me and from everybody in the ecosystem feedback and that sort of thing. Is that the biggest thing? And how can people give you feedback and kind of help to build the future of this ecosystem?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Finn.
Well, there's a button there with help right now. Is that what you were going to say?
Absolutely.
There's a button there with help. You're right about the feedback. I mean, we consider this like, like any kind of software platform, there are going to be releases, and we've got a pretty rich roadmap of things that are coming down the pike. In the tools specifically around how to manage your cap table, in terms of the equity of the business, how to manage your cash flow, how to do a much more detailed financial plan. And we're also bringing out a series of, we call the Q&A a playbook. So at the moment we've got the idea stage playbook, but what we want to put in is like a digital marketing playbook, a build tech playbook, how do you form a company playbook, all with the same framework to say, okay, well, ask a question, get an action, complete the action, and get an asset, which you're then able to use. I mean, I found like the reason for this is I find like we think a lot about whether you can teach somebody to be an entrepreneur. And, for me, being an entrepreneur is very much a choice. It's a life choice. So you're saying, look, I want to do my own thing. And I think it's hard to teach somebody that, because you're kind of teaching them to make a decision about their lives. But can you teach somebody how to do the structures of business readiness? And I think absolutely. I mean, I don't think that's the hard bit. And I don't think we should be making it difficult for people to be able to describe their businesses or to be able to design their businesses. I've seen that the show Dragon's Den a few times, and I really hate it when you have somebody who says like, I have an idea, and then you have these investors kind of going, yeah, but did you think of that? And they didn't. Not because they were stupid, which is how they're made feel, which I don't think is constructive, but because they just didn't know. So how do you try and just help people say, look, this is what you need to do, not just here are tons of templates. It's like, fill this out now and complete this now, do this thinking, assign to your team. And that's going to permeate through. So I'd love to hear from your user base what kind of playbooks they would like. What would be meaningful? Are there things that they feel like that they're just not they're struggling to get information on? Or what, the playbook there for the idea stage is very much around a commercial business. And when we were presenting this to the best class, I think it was last year, somebody asked the question, like, could you do something around social entrepreneurship, which isn't, some of the structures are the same, but some are different. So if that was something that you guys would like, that's all stuff that we'd love to get on our roadmap. If there are things on the platform that you think, God, that just doesn't make sense, we'd love to hear from that. And if there are things where you're like, wouldn't it be cool? Wouldn't it be lovely? I'd love to hear. So I'd love to hear any of that feedback. I mean, you can do it on the help button, but please reach out. Joe, you can circulate our emails. I'm Finn at thestartup.com, Fin, and Jan is Jan at thestartup.com. Everybody
absolutely
monosyllabic names, so it's all very easy.
100%. So Finn, look, I will have that all shared. Anybody who's watching this now, all of the links to everything we mentioned will be in the description of the video as we share this out. But also my last thing I'm going to share is just here. If you're wondering, how do I join the Tangent ecosystem? We have a link. And we have a QR code. If you're more into QR codes, you can go through that, bit.ly/Tangent ecosystem, or you can scan the QR code. The only way to contribute to the future of the ecosystem is to be a part of it. So we will look forward to having a lot of people on board. Finn and Jan, thank you so much for coming on and telling us everything that is wonderful about the ecosystem. I'm super excited to continue working with you guys. And yeah, we're looking forward to feedback and making this something amazing. Thank you so much for coming on, guys.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Joe.
Pleasure, and best of luck. Look forward to seeing you. Are we off now?
No, you're good. Yeah, so please.
This is my first webinar, by the way. Like when I think of the billions of hours I've clocked up in Zoom, but yeah, best of luck. I mean, I'm hoping to, like, the Trinity will be open and we can kind of, you know, meet in person. But in the interim, you know, please reach out and don't hesitate. It'd be great to hear, and we really want to build a relationship. We love working with Trinity, and we have a history, and I think, and we're just very excited about hearing the feedback of what the users actually think, and also what users need that we haven't anticipated. So one of our core strategies is very much around co-creation and co-development, because we want to hear what the ideas are. We want to hear, you know, what the needs are, and then start working together to deliver on those, because, you know, it's evolving. And I think there are definitely some structures which are consistent across business development and business readiness, but I think we're really eager to hear what your guys' perspective is on the ecosystem and how we can make it as vibrant as possible.
Amazing. We'll look forward to it. Thanks so much for coming on, guys. Until next time.
Thanks.
Until next time.
Take care.
All right. Bye.